Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 183. My name is John Morgan. Cole Coffee not with me tonight. Cole Coffee is on vacation. I think maybe the first time ever. I kind of remember him taking a vacation with his girl and seeing the family. But we got a special guest here that makes it even better. The magnificent one himself, Steven Marrocco, here with me in San Jose, California for Bellator 206. Mousasi versus McDonald. Let's just lay it out on the table right now. Let's set the scene. We are chilling at an Airbnb this week. The hotels in San Jose are a little bit out of the MMAjunkie price range, so we found ourselves a nice little Airbnb. It's nice. Mr. Marrocco is not incredibly satisfied with the location, but it's a fine property that we're in here. And of course, we are having frosty beverages as we do. But let's make it very clear: I am the common man here with the Coors Light, just doing it like I do. And you, sir, the craft IPA, I imagine.
Yeah, the true Portland hipster here. This is actually called Drake's Denogonizer. It's a double IPA. When I lived in the Bay Area about a year ago, this is what I drank all the time, and so I'm going down memory lane.
Nice. And that was available at the corner liquor store over here?
It's a pretty popular beer down here.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, it is. We don't have a lot of restaurants around us, so that's one of the reasons you're not.
We have liquor stores,
but we've got liquor stores,
and we've got gas stations.
And it's the perfect corner liquor store, you know, that you see. And they've crammed quite a bit of stuff in there.
They have, and we're determined to sample a little bit of it.
Damn right we are. All right, let's talk about this Bellator 206 card. Just right on paper, just looking off the top, we were kind of talking about this week. Best Bellator card in history. I mean, is that? And listen, I know it's always tough to say greatest, best, because come on, do we really remember the previous 205 cards by memory at this point?
We really don't.
No, absolutely do not. But it's got to be at least one of, right? I mean, this is a fun card.
Sure, definitely tentpole. First super fight in history. Champ versus champ. They don't usually do that. And also the welterweight Grand Prix. Then the big old, it's like a big old nostalgia sandwich, basically, because we've got the competitive super fight, the welterweight Grand Prix, and then sandwiched in the middle is Jackson Silva 4.
Yeah.
So it's kind of something for everyone. And then you got Pico, the new one, Melendez and Bolanos. Those are two kind of like appetizers.
Yeah.
Up and comers, but super solid card.
I love it, man. I really do feel like this is a big moment for him. And I don't know, as you said, it's a little something for everybody. And I just, for some reason, to me, I feel like all the pieces are finally coming together for Bellator. I don't know what it is about this card, but I feel like now, maybe it is because it's a little bit of everything. I mean, the super fight, as you said, Gegard Roy. If this was in the UFC, right? I mean, this could be a UFC main event, right? I mean,
sure.
We'd be like, maybe not a pay-per-view, but at least a nice fight night. We'd be like, wow, that's a great one. So you got that. You got legitimate top-ranked fighters. You have Rampage and Vanderlei, which Bellator does like to do the classic fights. And I'll be honest with you, that's probably the fight I'm least excited about. But for the casual fans, that's the one they're tuning in for more than anything else, right? I mean, those names still click.
I would say for casuals, I would probably put Liddell Ortiz over that in terms of the casual recognition. It's like if you followed MMA in the early 2000s and you were aware of Pride and what was going on there and the depth of that rivalry at the time, how much it meant when they actually fought. It was a big deal. But it's a big deal for us in the bubble. Like, Liddell and Ortiz is probably they'll probably get a lot of people to tune into that, or a lot more than if they put Rampage versus Silva on a pay-per-view by themselves.
You think Liddell Ortiz is going to do good via pay-per-view, though? I feel like our traffic is going to be good because people are going to know what's going on. I don't feel like people are going to. I mean, do we know? Is it $60?
I guess what I'm saying is that I think that more people would buy Liddell Ortiz than they would Silva, Rampage on its own.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to do well because I think there's, fans are not stupid, even the casuals.
Yeah.
But it's still a super fun fight. I mean, it's in terms of like you said, it's like the one you wanted to see least, and I'm kind of on the same page with you. It's kind of like a very slight step above Liddell Ortiz 3.
Yeah. And no disrespect to those guys. I mean, they are legends of the sport, man. Like, it's still cool. Like, for us to go there today and talk to you had a 10-minute conversation with Rampage, and he was in good spirits. You talked to Vanderlei, and they're still legends. Like, it's still cool to be around them, but I just don't feel like it's a heavyweight fight on top of that. I mean, I just don't feel like we're talking about these two guys at their prime, at their best. But it's still cool to see them.
Yeah, I mean, I like both of those guys. Personally, I think they're great interviews, and I think they're fun to talk to. And yeah, they are legends of the sport. Nobody can take that away from them. It has nothing to do with like how I feel about them personally. It's more just I'm just a cranky journalist, and I want to see people thrive in their later life. They already have it tough enough, doing this for a living. And, I just worry, a guy like Silva who's been knocked out several times, obviously did fine against Chael, but that's a different kind of fighter. I don't want to see that guy laid out on the canvas again.
Right.
I like him a lot.
Right.
I think he's a very likable guy, and I don't want to see him laid out on the canvas. I think Jackson is a much more competitive fighter at this point. It'll be a car crash, and we'll watch.
That's it. You got that. You got Koreshkov versus Lima kicking off the welterweight Grand Prix. We've got, as you said, Higo versus Pico is a good fight, man. I know maybe a lot of people may not necessarily know the name Leandro Higo, but he's been around. He's fought some tough dudes. This is a real test for Aaron Pico, and I think Higo's. I think that's a good fight. And then Kerry Melendez and Gaston Bolanos. I think those are the two you're focused on in those fights. Not that you can take away from the others, but listen. Scott Coker has a history of matchmaking where it is, the fighter versus the opponent, and we know who the two fighters are in those matchups.
Yeah, and actually that should tell you something about the Pico versus Higo match, because Lander's a legit dude, and he's fought some legit guys and hasn't gotten any breaks when it comes to who he's fought since he's moved to Bellator. So the fact that they're willing to put him with that guy, obviously he's coming up a weight division, and it's probably not his. It's obviously not his chosen weight class. He said he was going to go back to bantamweight. But they're trying to give him guys that have a lot more experience. And Higo is definitely that guy. And in this case, they're putting the question is, can he overcome this submission guy, this great submission guy? I would say that his style matches up very favorably. It's still a very favorable matchup in terms of how... he's a boxer and a wrestler. The jiu-jitsu guys, depending on how they do things, tend to come out behind in that equation a lot. But it's still, I feel like it's a much more competitive fight than he's had in previous times.
I agree. All right, so overall, I like this card a lot. I mean, you could go through the prelims, but let's be honest, Bellator still does the local ticket sellers on the prelim. I know today we were in an Uber, and the Uber driver's like, my buddy's fighting on the card, so. That's how they do, and there's nothing wrong with that. You got to get the tickets sold, but I think we'll be focused on the main card. Cool to see. It's a 6-fight main card. They added that Gaston Bolanos fight to the main card, which I think he deserves it, man. He's exciting. I think he's got real upside. And you and I were at dinner last night, and we ran into some Bellator officials and said, hey, well, why'd you do that? I said, bro, it's DAZN. We can do whatever we want. Yeah. It is kind of cool. Like with Paramount, you don't have that flexibility. They've got that TV window, and you can only fit so much. And now they're like, we're streaming this stuff, so we just decided to do what the hell we wanted. And I think that's cool. So I wanted to kind of start there and get your takes, because I know you key into the business side of things, and you had a chance to talk to some DAZN people. This is the big debut. Now the Boise card did stream on DAZN, but it was a soft launch. They didn't even advertise it to anybody. I think it was more just like testing the capabilities. This is the big coming out party, and of course that one was on Paramount as well. This one is only on DAZN. So for everybody that doesn't know, if you haven't signed up, you need to get signed up. You can't watch this on TV. You can only watch it on DAZN. You can get this for free. They're giving away a free month, so you can try it out. So you're not going to have to give up any money. But give me your take, man. It's a weird time for MMA. So much MMA is going behind a paywall. ESPN. We know that deal with the UFC, and so much of it's going on ESPN Plus. We just found out today that the UFC's deal in the UK isn't even with a terrestrial broadcast partner. It's with an online streaming partner. I mean, I guess this is the future that we've known we were going to, right? I mean, how long has Dana White been saying, guys, I'm telling you, I remember those conversations, a decade ago when he was like, I don't know what it's going to be.
Everything's going to be on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, originally that he's like, I don't know how it's going to do it, but it's going to be. He saw it. I mean, that company knew that. Of course, they weren't the only ones. A lot of people have known this, but I mean, I guess so. We've all said this is the future. Now we're getting to the future. I'm 40 years old, so maybe it seems scary to me, but I don't know, man. This seems like a scary proposition. Just as I say, it feels like everything's coming together for Bellator, right? The grassroots people that they're hiring are finally kind of maturing, a la A.J. McKee last week. They're stars, they're free agents. There's finally enough free agents that you can make, big fights against each other. I mean, all these things, they're all positive, but I'm scared, man. You put this thing behind a $10 a month paywall. I mean, what's your take on this? Is this scary to you, or is this just the future that we all need to embrace?
Well, I mean, it just seems like the trend is that it's going to get more expensive yet again to be an MMA fan. And if you really want to keep up to date on the sport, you're going to have to add a lot of subscriptions. What you may be taking away though is that cable bill,
right?
Which is pretty significant.
Sure.
For a lot of people, especially if you want the sports packages that have all the the FS1 and FS1-2 add-ons. That can be pretty expensive. I have Hulu now, and that's the way I get FS1 and FS2. That's
okay.
And before I was I mean, I've been a cord cutter for 5-6 years.
Okay, so maybe to you, maybe this doesn't seem like such a big deal.
No, it's not. It's who offers the best value, and I think that DAZN is making the play that they're going to hook people with combat sports,
right,
and keep them around with other sports. What sports those are, how that comes into play, I'm not exactly sure, because according to the information we already have, the other major sporting leagues aren't really on the market yet.
Right.
They're not on the market for several years.
Right.
So I don't know if they're just, sort of putting together this sort of piecemeal presence of other more, mainstream domestic sports, and that's the way they're going to sort of prop up their numbers.
Because in Canada, I believe, and I think some other markets as well, I mean, they carry the NFL, right? I mean,
right.
It's like
Bond was saying that.
Yeah, it's like the Sunday ticket or whatever
Yeah.
for this. I think it's a little bit more expensive up there for him, if I remember right. Not a ton more, but I mean, you get all the NFL. I mean, hell, I pay like $300 a year to get the Sunday ticket, and I don't even really watch it that much anymore. It's just, I don't know. I've always had it, so I keep it. I mean, so it's going to be a while before they can get stuff like that. And I played around with the DAZN app the other day. I downloaded it. I watched the Joshua fight on there.
How was the pacing?
Good. It was good. First of all, the stream looked phenomenal. I'll say this. The technology was good. The interface was really easy to navigate. It wasn't some kind of menu-heavy, difficult-to-find stuff. It looked like they had a bunch of international soccer and some other things. But it was weird to me because, and this is something I'm interested to see because, Fight Pass now has a 24/7 stream running, so that even if you tune in and you don't know what you want to watch, there's at least something going all the time. I know this is more about live sports than it is about archived content, but I wonder because it is weird. You pull up the DAZN and they have like a schedule, and you pull up certain days and there's just nothing on there. You know what I mean? It literally says nothing scheduled. So it's like, well, why? I feel like that's going to be a little bit because you want to keep the repetition, right? Like make it
Sure.
habit to log in or check in or whatever. So I'm going to interested to see how they address that. They are not launching in the United States only. I mean, they've been around for a while. When you talk to them, I mean, did you get a sense of? I mean, it sounds like they're putting a lot of money, right? I mean, it was
9 figures.
How weird was that,
Yeah.
right? Because you and I have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of press releases. Nobody ever puts 9-figure deal. To me, that was a power play. Like, that was very specifically worded because normally it's just a multi-year, multi-million-dollar agreement or something
Right.
like that. For them to come out and say a 9-figure deal, that has to be like them puffing their chest a little bit, saying, right, like, hey, we got money and we're coming to play.
Yeah, I mean that may very well be the case. This sport has a long history of attracting whales. And a lot of them come in. I was shocked that in 2017 we still had the PFL. We still have the forces behind the PFL coming in and putting in tens of putting up $1 million, and now apparently it started a trend. $1 million paydays.
We're going to get to that 50-cent payday.
We got to get to that, of course. But it's obviously a gamble. Live content is clearly still drawing a premium,
right?
And the rub is always in the return on investment. If they can get enough people to sign up. When you talked about the scheduling, remember when UFC went on Fox Sports 1? Fox Sports 1 was new.
Right.
That was one of the reasons why the UFC their futures became so deeply intertwined.
True.
Because this one didn't have a lot of other stuff.
Right.
They were kind of, again, putting it together piecemeal, and they were running a lot of filler.
I kind of forgot they helped launch that network.
They really did.
I totally forgot about that. You're right.
And the subscriber base, the subscriber fees were not, they weren't even close to what ESPN was getting. Now, of course, ESPN was forced to do a major course correction because, like I think a lot of successful properties, it's like they were kind of hit by this too. They suddenly found that they couldn't just print money. They couldn't just put anything on and continue to get that $4 subscriber fee. So they started cutting and getting, tightening the belt. So I think this is we're kind of like maybe part of the, this is the first wave.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an experiment, and we'll see how things. We'll see who's still around, in a year. It could be that they do a year's worth of programming, and they decide that it's just not worth the investment, and they go back to soccer. They focus on soccer, which everybody loves. I hear.
Yeah. Maybe not in the United States as much, but around the world.
I'm getting into it though, man.
I do love soccer.
You're more of a soccer fan, but actually, I have been. You have the Portland Timbers.
I was about to say, that's a successful franchise.
It really is. And actually, I only until recently did I start to get invested, and I get it more now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get. There are certain sports like not my thing, but the local connection.
Yeah.
I get it more now. I don't think I was talking to Ramani about this today. I don't think I will ever get pro wrestling.
I don't think either.
I can't do it.
And I don't fault the people that do. Like I'm not trying to sit here and go, you're stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't understand either. And then the one I really don't get is the people that like pro wrestling but don't like MMA. Like if you like fake fighting, why wouldn't you like real fighting?
I do not. I think from what Ramandi was telling me, it's about. I think once you get past all the theatrics, it's more about the way. It's about the construction of the theatrics. It's about the performance. It's about the way a certain performer takes certain.
Wow, Mark Raimondi is a highbrow hipster wrestling
He
fan.
really is, But that's what you geek out about stuff, right? You geek out, right? And then it's not about how they did the suplex or whatever. It's about how they set up the suplex and how their character, did. It's how do we get on this topic?
I don't know.
It's sports. People like sports, live
phenomenal.
sports. Yeah.
So did you? Last thing I want to ask you about DAZN. Did you get in your conversations? Did you get any kind of indication of what is success for them, or like how it's going to be measured? It's just notoriously private, right? It's like Fight Pass never shares numbers.
Right. They remember when Invicta actually. I think Shannon dropped the numbers for the first one, and then it was like that was that.
Don't do that again.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of benefits to keeping this stuff secret. You can make a lot of different claims and to the public, which may end up helping your case. So I don't necessarily fault them for not telling me what it is, but the basic gist of it is, customers, we need them.
Right.
It's not much simpler than that. And at $9.95, if they added some other stuff, maybe it might be worth it. I don't know. We're in a different position because we expense it.
I was going to say, it is weird for us because like when and I do think about that sometimes, and I'm like, when you're trying to weigh in on what the value is and what the, is it worth it? It's like, well, we're probably not the right people to ask because it doesn't even really come out of our pocket.
We don't sacrifice. I can't imagine paying $300 a month for a cable bill.
Right.
I just can't imagine that. I don't. I wouldn't let that happen. I can't imagine it was something that was that important to me.
Yeah, I think my DirecTV during the month when I'm paying for the NFL season is like $225 or something like that.
That is ridiculous.
It is.
But hey, more power
ridiculous.
to you. I mean, you have all this choice. I mean, my question is like, how do you? What? I mean, dude, you and I, but you more so you. You live on a screen, so
Yep.
how do you go? I find it hard to go home at the end of the day. Roll down
Walk out of the living room.
Yeah, whatever, and just watch a screen for another 8 hours.
No, you know what, man? I really don't. It's for my wife more than anything to so that they she probably only watches like 4 channels. I try to spoil and make sure they can watch whatever they want. But now you're making me really think. I need to rethink my cable bill.
Cut the cord, man.
I need to take a look.
Go
All right,
outside.
let's talk about this car. Go outside. What? Get out of here, man. I'll go outside and watch the TV I have outside on my patio. All right, let's talk about this main event. Gegard Mousasi versus Rory McDonald. It's a super fight, right? It's Rory McDonald trying to be a 2-division champion, which is cool, especially considering what he's about to embark on with this welterweight Grand Prix, which is crazy. You talked to Scott Coker a little bit about how this came together, and I think even he said he had a little hesitation at first, maybe putting this fight together. But it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they're grasping for something. I mean, it feels like a legit fight, at least from my perspective. I'm excited for it. I did end up picking Gegard. I do think he's not. It's not obscenely size difference, but it's significant. And I do think Gegard's a pretty fantastic fighter, even if they were the same size. If we were doing that hypothetical pound for pound argument. But it is the weird thing that struck me this week is, I mean, everybody's looking at Rory and be like, my God, if you do this, oh my, you might be one of the best pound for pound of all time. I mean, that's what every story, and it's true, because it would be amazing for him to move up and to have both these titles. And then meanwhile for Gegard, it's just like, so, it's a fight, huh? And I don't hear anybody going, dude, if Gegard beats Rory, you got to start looking at Gegard as one of the greatest of all. Nobody's saying that, and I feel kind of bad. It's just weird. It's like there's so much more at stake for Rory in terms of history and legacy and all this, and for Gegard, it's like, bro, you better beat that welterweight, or that's going to be kind of embarrassing for you.
Yeah, well, Gegard is never. I mean, he told us he's not into all that stuff. I mean, I think he wanted the title in the UFC because he knew it would mean extra money, a better financial future. But I don't think Gegard has never been into the pomp and circumstance, so I don't think that really bothers him too much. He's a pretty mellow dude, but I feel like he watches the bottom line very closely, and so I think for him, this is just just something. It's a nice little feather in his cap. It's a way to prove that he can beat another guy who's very, very highly regarded,
right?
Even if he is in a lower division. Also, I think he just might know that, if Rory tries to clinch him and do what he did against Douglas Lima, that weight is going to come into play.
I agree.
And Rory's not going to have an easy time doing to him what he did to Doug.
Yeah. What do you think Rory's best path is? Because, I mean, we think about Rory. Obviously, the first thing you think about is the bloody battles, the toughness. I mean, that's the iconic imagery of Rory McDonald, right? But I don't necessarily think that going toe-to-toe with Gegard Mousasi would be the right play, right? But as you said, if you get in that clinch game, then you got to deal with that size and that power advantage in there as well. So you think wrestling, trying to get Gegard on his back, you think that's the best path?
That was what King Mo did. Obviously, a much bigger fighter and a much different time in Gegard's career, but that would be the path that I would think.
Yeah.
Or maybe you stay at range and you kick him. You kick the crap out of him, and then pick your spots to close distance, or you draw him in, and then you get the take. You get him to commit more in his combination, so the takedown is much easier.
Right.
That would I think would be the best play for him. But
he did show good time. Like you said, he's not going to be able to treat Mousasi the way he did Lima, but he did show good timing with Lima, especially considering he was on a wounded limb at the time, to be able to still get the fight to the ground.
Yeah, for sure. I initially picked him, but then I thought about what it would be like when they actually clinched up.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely an uphill battle, But for us and those guys have a track record of coming up with some pretty good game plans and strategies. So maybe they have something planned that's going to expose Gegard or expose him to the area where he's weakest, which is on his back.
You touched on some stuff with Roy today that I want to ask. I was actually behind the camera. I was doing my best Ken Hathaway, but you touched on some stuff with Roy today about the weight move. The change to middleweight and not doing it the way George St. Pierre had done it. I'll be honest. I missed those. I didn't know it. So what exactly were you alluding to there? Because as far as I can tell, Roy just didn't cut, right? I mean, he looks pretty much the same to me this week, whereas GSP noticeably bulked up for his fight with Michael Bisping.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? That Roy just said, look, I'm not going to add mass. I'm just not going to cut, basically?
Exactly. Remember back in the day when we were, all debating about GSP and Silva and, GSP's favorite thing to say was, I need time to get up in weight and make sure it's quality weight, basically, which means lifting a lot of weights, eating probably a lot of protein shakes that are not great for your ulcer.
As we have since found out.
As we have since found out. And just calorie loading, and then taking it from there. I think maybe Rory was like, that seems like way too much work and way too much struggle for what's not that significant of a gap.
Right.
Gegard isn't a huge middleweight.
He's not, which is weird. Even though he's fought at higher weight classes,
he's never been a big fight. He's never been known for his size like Lima would be. Lima's known for being a big welterweight, or Till.
Oh yeah.
Being
Till
a
would tower over him. It's weird to say because I was doing a radio hit the other day with the UK and I was just kind of riffing. I hadn't really thought about what I was going to say, and I was like, Gegard's not that big of a middleweight. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, but wait, he's fought at like heavyweight before, and I'm like, but he's not. He's really not that big.
Yeah, no, he isn't. He is. He's a skill fighter. He's a technique fighter. He has been able to overcome his a lot of physical disadvantages in bigger fights just because he's a very skilled guy. Because he's been doing it forever. And
it's weird. He's not that old.
He's not that old. He's one of those guys. He was fighting in Pride. Fighting a cage war, and he's got a lot of high level experience for a long time, and I think for him the biggest threat is like burnout. Not taking it seriously, because you get to a certain point, you've seen it all, and
just doesn't excite you, doesn't get you up anymore,
right? And I think Rory is obviously he's still out to prove something. He still wants to. First of all, I think he's chomping at the bit from only fighting a couple times in a couple years.
Right.
But I also think he has a little more skin in the game. I think Gegard's kind of on his way out.
I mean, he talked to you and me about retirement, and I love the path out the door that he laid out for himself, which Lovato Jr., he says that guy's number one. I think that's great because I do think Lovato Jr. is number one, but I was worried that Gegard would be like, but he's 8-0. What do I care about this guy?
Or that Bellator would say,
exactly. So, I love the fact that he's like, I want that, and then I want Machida.
Yeah.
Provided Machida wins, and then he said, and then maybe Bader, maybe move up to light heavyweight and fight for that title, which would be, that would be pretty cool.
That would be great. And that feels to me like Mousasi versus McDonald, like Mousasi versus Bader in terms of the size difference. Like
that would be significant.
That would be tough, and that would be an even worse problem to having that guy on top
Bader's
of you.
Having that guy, dude, man.
And he's great at takedowns, a real big takedown artist. So that's a tough ask. But again, this guy. I think he's just at this point in his career where he's just like, fuck it, let's fight. Let's do this stuff. I only have so much time. Might as well make it entertaining.
Yep, I dig it, man. So it's a big fight, and it's cool. History potentially on the line for Rory McDonald. Gegard kind of laying out what comes next for him for the rest of his career. Then in the co-main event, we do get the fourth meeting between Quentin Rampage Jackson and Vanderlei Silva. again, I hope that the MMA is good. That's all I'll say. I hope it's good MMA. I will say that, gosh, Rampage is probably going to have 30 pounds?
30 pounds at least. 220, and then he's like 253 weighed in it that his last fight.
That's,
and that's on weigh-in, so.
That's big, man.
Yeah.
I listen, Vanderlei, I love Vanderlei. Man, if you grew up watching the sport or if you've been around the sport for a long time, there's no way you're not a Vanderlei fan. I mean, the Pride run that he had, like, back before we knew that, he was a nice guy, all you saw was like this killer, and I mean, he'd never let it be known. He's actually a pretty good dude to talk to and hang out. You were just like, oh man, this Maul. I mean, he was the guy, and I loved watching him fight, and I still do. But man, this seems like this. To me, it seems like a tough ask.
Have you seen his training video? Have you seen the video of him hitting pads?
It's not good.
It's not good, and I know it's hard to, you can't judge from just one sample. We have no idea. There's very little context to that, but it's hard not to. It's like it's the same way I felt when I saw Chuck hitting pads.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, the same kind of deal. It's like those muscle fibers have been, they've aged, and
the twitch isn't quite as quick anymore.
Exactly, and that happens to everybody. It's inevitable, and it's particularly inevitable for people who've been through what he's been through. So it just, I don't know. I don't see how he gets it done.
I mean, I guess the only thing would be if Rampage. Now, you had. By the way, you had a pretty good interview with Rampage Day. It's up on YouTube if people want to watch that. Watch the whole thing. It's up on MMAjunkie as well. But you did the right thing, of course, which is don't start by talking about fighting.
Don't ask him about weight. Don't ask him about steroids.
Ask him about movies. Ask him about gaming, and it was good. He was relaxed, but he did point out, and it is true because he has always said it's not that he doesn't appreciate wrestlers. It's just that he hates wrestlers that basically lay and pray, that get on top and stall. If you're going to take me down, but try to advance position. Try to try to finish the fight through strikes or submission. I mean, I guess if he stood toe-to-toe with Vanderlei, he could potentially get clipped. I mean, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for Rampage to utilize his wrestling in this fight, right?
I mean, he's not easy to knock out. Quentin's never been an easy guy to knock out. I'm looking right now. Quentin got knocked out, sort of by Mauricio Hua, by Shogun. Yep. And then he got knocked out by Vanderlei twice.
Right.
That's prime Vanderlei. That's like that is the apex of the axe murderer.
I'm trying to remember what the testing policy was back then in Pride. I can't recall exactly what
was
program.
Nudge, wink, wink. That was what it was. It was pee in the cup. Well, did you ever read A Fighter's Heart?
No.
I think Sam, I can't remember his last name.
Sheridan, right?
Sam Sheridan said that somebody came into the room and they peed in a cup and they just took it away. But it was like a Dixie cup. They just peed into the Dixie cup and they took it out of there. And I was like, okay, they tested. Stamp. It was like the USADA thing.
That's
it was
phenomenal.
like I tested or something like that.
That's phenomenal.
So yeah, I mean that is prime axe murder. That's the only guy to really stop him. I think he quit in the Shogun fight. I think he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So nobody's really knocked him out. He's got an iron chin. He's got a huge neck. I just don't see how it happens. It's possible, but I don't know. If we're trying to promote, if we're talking about this fight, as sort of a preview and trying to get people excited for it, it's like, watch two of your legends, but get ready for some.
That's what worries.
Get ready for that sad hangover that comes when you're like,
oh,
either way.
That's why we don't normally do this.
Either way, one legend is going to be sad. That
is true. I guess the good thing is that again, the strides that Bellator is making, they don't need this to be their main event. This is a little icing. This is a little cherry, right? I mean, if this fight wasn't on the card, it's still a good card.
Still a good card, yeah.
So. Yeah. By the way, I'm looking at the odds now.
Good. Yeah.
Rampage minus 280. Vanderlei coming back at plus 240. That's according to 5 Dimes. So.
But that could mean that there's just not a lot of money. Like there's not a lot of money on the table, right?
Right. I would agree with that, but that's not a bad line. All right, but Steven, I'll tell you what's not sad. What's not sad? Mack Weldon. What is Mack Weldon? Well, they're the newest sponsor of the MMA Roadshow. We appreciate their support. Mack Weldon is a premium men's essentials brand that believes in smart design and premium fabrics. Put even simpler, Mack Weldon is better than whatever you're wearing right now. I hadn't heard of Mack Weldon. They reached out to us, and I wasn't familiar with the brand. So we've done a little time studying up, and I'll tell you what, these people are fantastic. The mission at Mack Weldon is simple: to make sure all of your basics and beyond are smartly designed, and shopping for them is easy and convenient. They told us, we founded Mack Weldon because we wanted more out of our basics and always questioned how something so essential could be such a pain in the ass to buy. The frustration was real, and our eureka moment happened in a department store aisle full of brands that dominated our top drawer. Surrounded by a mind-numbing assortment of underwear and socks, we realized consistent fit and quality became a game of roulette, so we decided to take matters into our own hands. We started from scratch and engineered our own fabric. We made sure the design process was meticulous, so you can count on the fit being the same each time. We built a world-class customer service experience. The difference is in the details, so we obsessed over every stitch and seam until we'd reached our definition of perfect. Bottom line here, Mack Weldon believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. You go online, you get things shipped. And you know at the MMA Roadshow how much we love shopping online. If I ain't got to get out of the house to go get something, I am all about getting it online. And they make the process super simple. And Mack Weldon will be the most comfortable underwear, socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, and sweatpants that you will ever wear. They even have a line of silver underwear and shirts that are naturally antimicrobial. Well, you know what that means. They eliminate odor. They want you to be comfortable, so if you don't like your first pair, just keep it. They'll still refund you. No questions asked. They'll give you your money back, but you can hang on to the product. That's how much they believe in it. Not only does Mack Weldon's underwear, socks, and shirts look good, they perform well, too. You can work out in them. You can go to work in them. You can go out on dates in them. Just everyday life. Mack Weldon is there for you. So if you want to give this a shot, do go to MackWeldon.com. That is MackWeldon.com. MackWeldon.com, and enter the promo code MMA Road. That is MMA ROAD at checkout. They're going to give you 20% off your first order. Go check it out at Mack Weldon. It's premium. All right, Andrei Koreshkov versus Douglas Lima. Something that is pretty exciting. This welterweight Grand Prix, I'm excited about this welterweight Grand Prix. I really am. And it got even a little bit more exciting today when the press release came out that 50 Cent is somehow involved with the champagne brand. But anyway, here's the bottom line. Here's what's happening. The winner of this tournament's getting $1 million. So not only is the Bellator, welterweight title on the line, which I thought was brilliant. I know there was debate over whether they should do it. I love the fact that that belt is on the line all the way through. So you're getting a champion out of it. I love that fact. But now the winner gets $1 million. And it does say, by the way, the press release says $1 million in cash. And 50 Cent did, I don't know if it was $1 million. It looked like a lot of money. He did post something on Instagram. I'm not exactly sure what the message he was relaying was there.
What was he talking about?
I don't know who he was talking to. I don't know what he was saying. But he did have a lot of cash on the table. But I really do hope, and we were kind of joking about it this morning when the press release came out, but I really do hope they give somebody like $1 million in cash. Like not a big check to hold up. Not just, you get wire transferred later. No. I want to see $1 million. And I think it was Simon Simano's idea to have like the World Series of Poker where it's, just stacked up on the corner over there. It's right there in front of everybody, so everybody knows what you're fighting for.
Yeah.
You kind of had the idea of it coming down like confetti, at which point I said, let's add the Pride Win music in. And just, as soon as the bell sounds, the music turns on and the money just starts raining down.
Why is it the Pride theme, by the way, not Bellator's theme?
I don't know. Well, I don't. Do they have a theme?
They kind of do that, That
oh yeah, that's true. That's right, they do have that. No, it can't be that. It's got to be the Pride thing. Sorry, man.
In the pantheon of MMA, or promotional themes,
it's ahead of IFL.
Yeah.
But
what was the IFL?
Well, first of all, they had like a rap song. Remember back in the day where they had like people rapping on it.
Oh, and they had the fighters do it, right?
And then there was like one, So.
Oh god.
Bellator's a step above that, but it's not quite memorable. But anyway, $1 million on the line. Douglas Lima versus Andrei Koreshkov kicks this off. I don't know. I mean, while to me, and again, this is Bellator coming together. While the heavyweight Grand Prix was kind of like bizarre and fun, I still like the heavyweight Grand Prix. I'm not knocking it, but it was more like kind of Japanese, freak style matchups, and we're gonna have to me, this welterweight Grand Prix is packed with some talent, man. I'm pretty stoked for this fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and they got a lot of guys in there. First of all, they're answering a lot of questions right off the bat. They're not shying away from really compelling matchups right off the bat.
Yep.
Daly, MVP, Lima Koreshkov.
Do it. Don't wait. Don't hope
wait.
it comes together in the second round.
Don't hope it comes together, exactly. Fitch, McDonald, interesting. That's an interesting fight. And then you've got kind of the unknown bracket or the lesser known bracket with Neiman Gracie at Ruth.
Ruth, though,
unheralded.
Ruth is the dark horse, man.
He really is.
He is very, very skilled, man. And if he can mature quickly, I mean, I do think he'll get by Neiman Gracie, and then he's got a tough fight after that.
Oh yeah, it's gonna definitely. I mean, he's I talked to him a couple months ago. He wants to, step up and show that he's that guy and sort of break into that next level. There's no better way to do it than in this tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. We didn't get a chance to talk to Koreshkov today. We did get a chance to talk to Lima. Lima, you could tell, man, he wants Rory again at some point. He wants that to happen.
He was bugged.
Yeah, that was tough, man. I mean, if anybody doesn't remember watching that fight, I mean, I hate to say it, but I would say it to him, and I think he would agree. He gave that fight away.
He was too accepting of the takedown.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it. I hate this trend. It almost enrages me as much as when somebody rocks somebody else and then goes for a takedown.
Like, what are you doing?
It's just like it makes me crazy. But the other thing is when people do closed guard.
Yeah. 5th round, tight fight.
Doesn't make any
on
sense.
your back with closed guard.
Yeah.
So frustrating, man. And I don't know if it was exhaustion or just a mental lapse.
Yeah.
But it made no sense to me either.
You watch flyweights and bantamweights fight, and they've got it down, man.
Yep.
Nobody accepts guard.
Hell
Nobody
no.
does. It's always open. It's always butterfly, and they're always trying to use momentum to put them right back where they were.
If you need to get closed guard for a brief moment to slow somebody down, or maybe you're rocked or something like that, and you're like, oh, hold on, I gotta tie things up for a second and recover.
Sure.
I got you. There are times for closed guard, but you're right, man. In this day and age where everybody knows jiu-jitsu, I mean, there's hardly anybody that my only defense here is to hold and wait for a stand-up. You know what I mean? Now, there's hardly anybody at that level.
Yeah.
Most people have some kind of sweeps or transitions, and so to settle on your back of a championship fight against a guy who's hurt, who if you get him back on his feet can barely stand up.
Yeah.
And you're working closed guard, like I was shocked by that one too.
Yeah, that and I just watched it again the other day, and the fight really took a turn.
Mm-hmm.
It really took a turn because I thought that Rory was pretty close to being done. Couple more kicks, couple punches, and that fight is over.
I agree.
So I'm sure he's kicking himself for that, and he would love a shot at a do-over, and now all he has to get through is 2 guys, which, he's either going to fight. But first he's got Koreshkov, which he knocked out the last time and pretty conclusively. So what's the I always think about this. It's like the younger guy doing the rematch. If the guy's younger, you always go with the younger guy.
Interesting.
The younger guy who's won.
Yeah. In fact, that's pretty shown track record, right? If you play it out,
I can't remember what I read it, but then he's got the winner of Daly versus MVP.
That's a winnable fight for him.
I think so.
It's a very winnable fight for him. No disrespect to either one of those guys.
No, yeah, of course, but when I think of their, Daly, I think he could grapple Daly, and that would be that.
Agreed.
And he could easily, strike with him and come out okay. MVP, I think he could grapple. The grappling might be the difference there as well. So.
What a rebound that would be. Can you imagine if – now, I should say Koreshkov is a slight favorite according to the odds makers, but not by much. But what a rebound that would be for Lima if he could beat Koreshkov. Let's say beat MVP. Not that beating Daly wouldn't mean something, because it does. It means something. But I think beating MVP would have a little more cachet to it,
Yeah.
And then let's say Rory did make it, and then you beat Rory there. You win those 3. You get revenge, and then the $1 million confetti falls down on you, and 50 Cent starts spraying champagne on you. I mean, what a finish that would be.
Only one bottle. It goes for $1,700 a bottle.
That is so 50 Cent. There's a partnership. We're going to know more about it. I've heard that we may get to talk to 50 Cent on Saturday.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I've heard we may get to sample this.
Oh, not well. I am hoping, sir. That would be the most expensive thing by far I have ever sampled. But yeah, so there's a whole partnership here. There's a clothing line that they're going to work on together, but there's this champagne, and let me see if I can. Le Chemin du Roi? La Chemin du Roi, maybe? Is that
Okay. Yeah,
all
sure.
right, there you go. It's a champagne. But yeah, we were talking to some Bellator execs today, and they dropped that little nugget. It's a $1,700 bottle of champagne.
Oof, God.
Holy Christ.
I mean, Cristal is usually about $300. Ace of Spades is like $800, but obviously there's huge variations in that. But $1,700. First of all, you're doing this you're rolling this out. I'm assuming to get an audience for your product, right?
Of course.
Your audience is a bunch of MMA fans. Like,
yeah.
Is this your
How
target
many MMA
market?
fans are I mean, unless you're just trying to get Dana White's attention. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man, hopefully Dana's watching this and like champagne. I mean, $1,700 a bottle, that's a very narrow market. Like, I don't even know where you would advertise for that. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's
Formula One magazine.
Yeah, there's some kind of very special high-end. And then you have it in the clubs, right? I mean, you'd have it in nightclubs, so like that one person that wants to come in and be like, I want the $10,000 bottle, because obviously in a club it's not going to be $1,700, it's going to be $10,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Can you get in Vegas? I wonder. Can't get proper 12 yet. I don't know.
God, By the way, proper 12. See, I think Connor got it. I think that sells for like $25 a bottle.
Well, that would make sense. I mean, it's a similar price point to Jameson's. Have you tried to look for it in Vegas?
I haven't yet. I haven't. I mean, I do want to. Like, I'm curious, right? But I know,
Sure.
every journalist right now is like, oh, I'm gonna try proper 12, and I'm gonna do it on the air.
Emailing the marketing.
Yeah,
I write for so and so website.
But I would like to try it. I mean, I do like a good whiskey from time to time. I wouldn't mind trying it.
Yeah. Do you get email solicitations from pot growers? On your USA Today account?
Yes. Started to get some, by the way. Man, we wanted to go, and I couldn't. I feel like I had to go out of town or something, but they were launching a pot beer that had, like, THC.
CBD
and it had, like, active THC
Oh,
in
really?
it.
Wow.
I was like, bruh.
That seems like a hangover waiting to happen. Like a worse hangover.
I wanted to try it so
Seems like
bad,
just
though.
Liquid bad decisions.
We did get it. It would be liquid bad decisions. All right, rounding this thing out, Leandro Higo versus Aaron Pico. A big fight here. As I said, you kind of laid it out earlier, man. I think you said it perfect. Leandro Higo, a very well-tested veteran. I mean, not an old guy by any stretch, but a guy that's been around, had a lot of big fights against tough people.
He's 29.
It's crazy. But at the same time, he is moving up a weight class, so maybe that, gives Pico a little bit of an advantage. But I am so impressed by Aaron Pico, and not just his game. I mean, obviously his game. I mean, that dude is scary when he hits people to the body. Like, it is scary. The sound it makes and the things that it does to people, it's scary. But man, he is so well spoken and so confident. And I always say, and you get it, man. We've been interviewing fighters for years. I always say, and I don't know how you quantify it, except that you just see it. There are people that are confident, and there are people that are trying to make themselves believe that they are confident. You know what I mean? There are people that are trying to build themselves up, and you can see right through it. That is not Aaron Pico. That dude has self-belief, and it's amazing. And I mean, I don't know how anybody could not be on the Aaron Pico train right now, but if you're not, if you're tuned in to watch this guy for the first time, now I'm not saying he's guaranteed to win this fight. He's got a tough one here, and I can tell you, Higo's team, is all about, hey, we're gonna take out the Golden Boy. They've been saying it for a couple weeks. We're going to take out the Golden Boy.
You're close with Eric too.
Oh, yeah.
So when you talked to him, you had a whole interaction with him that I think I missed.
Yeah. So while you were still interviewing Kerry Melendez, he came up to me. He's like, "Hey man, you're gonna come interview us, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I told you, we'll be right over there." But I've talked to him, like, even in Boise, they're like, after they won there, and they were like, "Yeah, we're excited." But next week's where it gets really good. They're like, "We're taking out Bellator's Golden Boy." Like, Eric has just been all over it. Like, we got him. So,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Higo is no joke, but Pico's tough, man. I like this fight, and it's so tough for Pico because he just, he's only 4 fights in. I do think losing wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to him. I mean, get it out of the way early, get it done, maybe alleviate some of the pressure, maybe alleviate some of the attention. But I think he's rebounded from that dramatically. I think that body shot team out in SoCal we saw what A.J. McKee did. You got Baby Slice out there. You got Joey Davis. I mean, Antonio McKee is doing some great things with that crew out there, and he's right there with them. But I am super high on Aaron Pico. But I think this is a great fight. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. It's interesting also how he ended up at Body Shop, which is a very underrated, underspoken of gym.
It's like
it's
the
been
odd
around
couple, man.
forever. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because the one time I visited, have you been there?
I've never been there. I want to get. We got to, and maybe if you want to go down there, we got to get like you and a cameraman. Whether it be Ken Hathaway, we need to do like a little docu-series with those guys.
We have to capture what they talk about in between training sessions because it's mostly about race. From when I was there, and I asked Aaron if it had changed at all, and he was like, "No, it's like." It's full on debates between training sessions, and it could be similar to other gyms. I was just really struck by it because also
Aaron kind of came from privilege, right? I mean
privilege. Also, I kind of see him as like he's like a middle class suburban white guy,
right?
And that gym, there's a first of all, African Americans are very underrepresented in this sport.
Absolutely.
So the fact that they're very well represented in this gym, and they're having conversations. It felt to me like living in New York, like being back in New York. Talking, just having a much more balanced argument. Antonio has an opinion about everything, and he will talk and talk and talk. He's like Kogan. But Mike Kogan from Bellator. But
we could have some interesting conversations. Completely off record,
but
non-MMA related.
Yeah, but anyways, it's interesting that he went there, and I think it's a good sign because I don't think those guys take it easy on him. I think that they're working with him and they're making the best. Here's the interesting question: to featherweight, A.J. McKee, also a featherweight.
Yep.
Patricio obviously holds the belt right now, but I don't think Patricio. By the time they're 25,
so crazy.
He could be out. So what's that future look like?
That's a good question. It's a really good question because, they seem like a brotherhood, man. I don't think that would be one that they're like, well, we got to do it. The belt's on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they would. AJ last week, he's saying, look, I'm the GOAT, man. I'm gonna be there. It's my destiny. Maybe at some point, being the GOAT means you got to take out the guy that's in your own gym.
And you can't see a lot of other fights. It's like the fact that Pico is fighting Higo right now. It feels like a bridge opponent in a way that other opponents haven't been. It feels like there's not too many logical steps left for him.
There just can't be many people with their hand in the air going, give me Pico.
Yeah.
I'll take that guy.
Well, Coker just told Mark today from fighting that within the year, a year or so, we could see him fighting for the title. So that's 2-3 bouts maybe.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of moves left. AJ, same thing. He was just about to fight Curran.
Yep.
Not a lot of moves left when you start beating ex-champions. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Man, I hadn't even really thought about that, but you're so true. Okay. The two kickoff bouts on the main card. Again, I do think you have Well, they're big favorites. Let's just be honest. Kerry Melendez is, by the way, a minus 1,000 against Dakota Zimmerman, and Gaston Bolanos is minus 600 against Isidro Gutierrez. So
be honest. Have you seen Dakota Zimmerman fight?
No.
Okay. All right.
I don't even know if she has a pro fight. Like there's debate over whether she's 0-0 or 1-0.
Well, let's find out.
They're not sure.
We're going off of Tapology now. Right?
We are. We use Tapology now.
I still use Sherdog.
I still go to Sherdog a lot.
I
actually went through and compared. This is so just what we're talking about. So MMAjunkie, we put records in all the stories. For years we used Sherdog as Dan Stupp was like, hey, that's the record keeping I want you to use. But lately, we've switched over to Tapology. They've done a fantastic job with their website. I think they've made some tweaks lately I don't like as much, and I'm hoping they tweak again. But that's what we use. But I just went through because for our rankings I was checking all the records to make sure they match up, and now granted, you're talking about 20 people across like 10, 15 divisions. So you're probably talking 250, 300 fighters. But there were like 8 or 10 that their records didn't match on Tapology and Sherdog. They were like one fight off or something.
Oh,
so
interesting.
it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I remember I got involved. That was actually how I got into this. One of the ways I got into this business full time, because I was working for Full Contact Fighter, and Kirik bought the Full Contact Fighter database.
Yeah.
At that time, Full Contact Fighter was the other records keeper.
I remember. That was a long time ago.
Long time ago. And Kirik did a very smart move and bought the FCF database and then put it on his site, MMA.com. Back then it was .tv. And went to the ABC and convinced them to be the official record keeper.
Right.
Smart move.
Because they make money off that.
They do.
People have to pay to file.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So very, very smart move. But now I honestly wasn't even using Tapology, and I still kind of reflexively do it. I don't use MMA.com that often, but it shows here that she's 1-1 as an amateur.
As an amateur, yeah, there you go. So
she has her first professional fight. Carrie Melendez, on the other hand, is 2-0 as a professional.
We did meet Dakota today. Dakota works in an insurance office, I believe she said, full
She's
time.
in data entry.
But she, she fashions herself a jiu-jitsu stylist.
She trains at a jiu-jitsu gym, but I'm like thinking to myself, like, well, where, is there a striking component?
I'm sure they probably have some striking. Right? I mean, surely. Right? I mean, they have to. But you know what?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, they're fighting on Saturday.
Carrie Melendez was fun. I mean, talking to her about, here she is. This early in her career, main card, big opportunities, big expectations. But I liked her answer. She said, "Listen, man. I mean, I'm Gil Melendez's wife. Like, I knew what I was getting. I knew that I was going to have attention. I knew that I was going to have the spotlight, regardless of what I did. And I'm okay with that. It's not overwhelming to me."
Yeah. It's tough on her because, she has to go around with that label. I feel bad for her in that sense that she has to just walk around with that for a while. It's going to be that way until she has that sort of defining performance.
Right.
But, we talked about this before. Coker is very good at building people up.
Yes, he is.
He is responsible for Nick Diaz as far as I'm concerned.
Mm.
There is no Nick Diaz as he's known today without Scott Coker. He got favorable match. He's very good at building people the right way. So it's going to be a little while. And Carrie, let's see, how old is Carrie? She's 34. So,
She doesn't have all day.
She doesn't have all day. But, she can, I haven't really talked to her about it. I think this is just, she's starting out the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
She's kind of doing this. She wants to see how far she can go. There's some uncertainty as far as the division that she fights in, because she was talking about.
She thinks she's probably a little too small for 125, right. But they don't really have a 115 right now. So
right, and I don't know why that is. I haven't talked to Coker about that.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they could probably do it now. So so here's something interesting. Since we're kind of talking about Bellator as a whole, is this this UK TV deal / streaming deal that got announced today with the UFC. They're with a company now. BT Sport is gone. They're going to be with a company called 11 Sport, which I had never heard of before, so I had to research it. 11 Sport is an online streaming platform, so it's all streaming. They're going to get all 42 of the UFC cards. I mean, they're going to be the exclusive content provider in the UK, which good for them. I'm sure they paid good money. Hey, we're talking about streaming is where it's at now, right? But it's interesting because, it might have been kind of relatively little fanfare to American fans, but, Bellator did announce that they're launching kind of a Bellator regional promotion over in Europe that's going to have 10 events a year. And to me, I was like, all right, I mean, whatever. But then when you think about it, it's like, okay, they're going to do 10 events per year. They're going to be localized, prime time, in the right spot for that European audience, 7 p.m., whatever the case may be. I mean, the UFC only has maybe 5 cards a year that are in the right time frame for the UK. So, I mean, maybe that makes the Bellator, brand a little bit more attractive to a television provider over there, a terrestrial television provider that could say, hey, listen, we want the 10 shows. We want the 10 shows because we'll put those in our prime time. But then, also give us the overnight stuff. And, I mean, that seems to me if the UFC – and again, the UFC is the dominant brand. There's no question about that. And I've always said I don't see Bellator coming anywhere close for a long time. I mean, they're just leaps and bounds. The UFC is in front. But I don't know. It seems like a chance to make up some ground, at least in that one market, if the UFC is only on a streaming platform and Bellator can get their product on a regular TV. I mean, this event is going to air live in the UK. Now, it's going to be in the middle of the night. But if Bellator has a brand that's airing 10 days a year, live in prime time, and then you've got the overnight stuff too, and it's on TV and the UFC isn't, I don't know. It makes me wonder if maybe they can, at least in that market, Bellator can close the gap a little bit.
Well, Bellator has been good at how do I say this? Like it's like Bellator does shows, and they do shows that are profitable. Like the way Scott does business is like he's not going to walk into something and have it be a loss leader.
That's right.
Because he's not in the same position as the UFC. And so he's going to do deals that are good for him and that make money off the bat, whether they have to sell the gate to the local promoter, or they do it themselves. They're going to do it in a way that is an advantage to them. It may not be on the same scale,
right? And
it most likely won't be, but it perpetuates the brand, it keeps it out there, and it makes the company money.
Yep.
Or at the very minimum, it breaks even.
Yep.
So I think about the UFC's time in the UK. 10 years, they spent a lot of money in the UK. They really tried to make the sport the next big thing. And I think they definitely saw some return on investment. But I'm wondering if this pulling back is an indication that maybe they just don't like the way the numbers look. That the return on investment isn't as great it isn't good enough to really make it a priority. When I looked at the TV rights map from that lender presentation a couple years ago.
Before the sale, basically.
Before the sale, UK was not a strong market relative to other ones, like relative to the amount of fans. The amount of fans that they thought that they had relative to the revenue that they were getting. It wasn't a big disparity. It wasn't like, Russia, which has this huge fan base, it's way undercapitalized, or like, Brazil, that's doing just gangbusters business, or Canada back in the day, like when they had so many
when it was
engaged,
the Mecca.
Yeah, when it was engaged, they had so many engaged fans. They're going to go where I think that they are getting the best return on their investment, and I don't have any inside information, but I wonder if this is indicative of that, or they just think that it's not important to have terrestrial TV.
I mean, listen, like you said, we touched on it earlier. I mean, this is something that they've been moving towards for a long time, that they believe streaming was the future. I guess, and maybe that's my own, I don't know if it's, naivety or just stupidness to the brand, but yes, I agreed. I always thought, of course, streaming is the future. But I guess I always thought it was going to be like streaming with Fox, streaming with ESPN, still streaming with these powerhouses. And I guess, that's what seems so weird to me is like, no, we said streaming is the future, and it might be, a startup brand that we did ourselves. It might be some brand you've never heard of with DAZN. It might be 11 Sport that you've never heard of. I mean, like, that's weird to me. Like, I always thought the streaming was going to be, well, yeah, ESPN is going to make ESPN Plus, and they're going to stream, but you're still going to align yourself with that powerhouse brand that everybody knows. And, man, it does seem like this is such an interesting time for the industry as a whole. Like, both those, obviously this is, we got the Conor fight next week. That's going to do huge numbers. And of course, as we sit here right now, we're talking about what a big week this is for Bellator and the DAZN, and it's all coming together, and man, they're making improvements. And then next week we're going to be sitting in Vegas around a table just like this, and we're going to be like, holy shit, the UFC is big because it's going to be Conor, and the traffic numbers are going to be insane, and we're going to be getting calls for radio hits, and it's going to be madness, and we're going to go, what was I talking about last week? The UFC is the powerhouse, but
Yeah.
it does seem like such an interesting time. I mean, a lot of this is going behind a paywall here with Bellator. A lot of UFC is going behind a paywall with streaming, and I don't know, man. I'm intrigued. It's I understand that a lot of people say like the MMA growth isn't there anymore. And I feel that's definitely the case domestically, but I don't think you can do year over year, double-digit growth forever in any industry. But I do still feel like there's room to grow internationally. I just wonder how like this shift to streaming for everybody, like, is it going to be a negative? Like, is it going to be taking eyeballs away from the sport where people don't follow it as much?
I don't know. I mean, this sport has always kind of lived on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's the good news.
That is true.
So maybe they're going to try, instead of trying to get the right TV deal and playing that game, which is its own game, they are figuring that, they can convince people to just simply, pony up a little bit extra money to see it online.
How many? You only have Hulu? Well, so you have Hulu, and that's what, like $30 a month or something?
Yeah. So
but then you also have Fight Pass.
Yes.
You also have. Do you have ESPN Plus yet?
No.
I went ahead and got it
on the list.
on the list. Now you've got DAZN.
Not
yet, because you're here. You're going to need it once.
I'm going to need it. Yeah.
Anything else?
Netflix.
Netflix. That's five streaming services.
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. So I guess are we going to need Fight Pass next year? I guess we're only going to need Fight Pass if we want archival footage.
Great question.
Or if we want the third-party stuff, because I don't think they get the third-party, which we still will, because we'll
For
still
your
cover
purposes.
like Invicta. Yeah.
And also, it's a great research tool.
Oh, it's a great research
like
tool.
remember, like way back in the day, like when are you going to release those UFC 20 through 30? And that was the lingering thing,
Definitely.
and now it's amazing that like how much content they've amassed.
Almost like 20,000 fights or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but okay, let's say we still need it because we still want to watch. We're hardcores and we still want to watch it. So you need $10 a month for DAZN, $5 a month for ESPN Plus, $5 a month for Fight Pass. Because I think, right, if you get ESPN Plus, I think you get a deal on it. Maybe not. Let's say no. Let's say it's still $9 a month. So 25 a month just for your
25, yeah, and then.
And then you still got to have a streaming
pay-per-views.
service. Oh, fuck yeah, pay-per-views.
Which are $60 now.
You still need regular ESPN because some of the shows are going to be on regular ESPN. So
right. What's
the cheapest you get regular ESPN? Through like Hulu or something? Because you can't order it a la carte anywhere, right?
The package I have is $40.
Because you can't just say, I just want to buy ESPN.
This is the reason I did this, because you have to get them all in a bundle. It's a la carte is not yet a reality. So if you want
$40 a month.
Yeah, 40
plus the 10 for DAZN, plus the 10 for Fight Pass, so $65 a month.
Yeah, that's a cable bill
just for MMA.
But that's a cable bill I would pay if I was. I'm putting myself in the shoes of a hardcore fan,
right?
Somebody who's
I'm paying
just
$225 right now,
sort of in that love affair with the sport. 65, I would pay that.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. It's a cable bill basically.
Yeah.
And add Netflix, and you got you got Hulu, Netflix. You got a lot of content. Maybe convince a friend to give you an HBO password.
I was gonna say I have HBO and Showtime also. Oh, dude, somebody's gonna. All right, this industry as it's developing is gonna have to be refigured out, right?
Yeah,
somebody's gonna have to now that there's so many, there's gonna have to be like bundle options.
There's also just so much good content out there.
Yeah.
It's like we're in a period now where we're fortunate in a way, because there's so much good content and so many good ways to completely waste our time.
Oh man, well, you know what, the time we need to waste tonight is going to drinking some more frosty beverages. So I purposely didn't factor in a bunch of interviews and stuff because I still need Cold Coffee to edit this even though he's on vacation, but I decided to make this the easiest edit ever and just have an intro and outro and get it uploaded so that he can enjoy his vacation. So we'll keep this one relatively short this evening. I appreciate the discussion, and Bellator 206. I'm looking forward to it. I really do think this is going to be a fun card. Sign up for DAZN if you haven't. It's going to be free. I don't even think they make you give your credit card. Yeah, they make you give your credit card number for the.
Yeah.
Of course they do. What the hell am I talking about? Yeah, I signed up the other day, but I did it kind of quickly. I don't remember doing it. Yeah, I don't actually remember doing it, and it was my company credit card too. So
yeah. Cool.
I know we're spoiled.
We are.
All right. That's all you need to know. Thanks for listening.
All right.